Hey, and welcome back to Alternative Discussion West. This is your host, Ryan Banks, and I am very excited to be back here in the studio with you. I want to start off by thanking everyone that has tuned in over the last few weeks and enjoyed our episode with Glenn. Thanks for reposting links and sharing with your friends. It's greatly appreciated here. I got a great response from a bunch of you, and it was nice to hear that someone is listening. So thank you, and we here at 80 West hope to bring you many great conversations in this new year. A little about our guest today. We're going to bring you a conversation with Kevin Skalba of the band False Positives. And he's going to talk a little bit about his new album, Departures, that was just released by Def Cow Records and Nobody Likes Dogs Records at the end of 2016. That album is available on iTunes, Bandcamp, Spotify, and physically available on cassette tape. We are going to hear about Kevin's journey to the Bay Area, his job at Sony Music. We're going to talk about the Oakland Music Festival, This Is My Fest, and also his history playing music in and around Oakland. So without wasting any more time, I bring you our discussion. And today I want to welcome to 80 West, Mr. Kevin Skalba. Hey, what's going on, Kevin?
Hey, everybody.
What's happening, man? So you guys might be familiar with some of Kevin's work. He's one of the organizers of This Is My Fest in Oakland, and also been a scene in the Oakland, been a figure in the Oakland music scene and False Positives recently, and also Weekender. And you were telling me about Slow Moving Lions before that.
Yep, yeah.
Awesome. So how long have you been out here in Oakland?
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for having me.
Right on, thank you.
It's awesome to be here.
We appreciate you coming.
I moved out to Oakland in 2005.
And you came from Cleveland?
Yeah, I came from actually a suburb of Cleveland, Parma, Ohio, just south of Cleveland, born and raised. And spent most of my life there until I got an opportunity to move out to California. And who wouldn't want to leave Ohio, right?
What kind of environment is Parma?
Parma specifically is a very interesting place because it's sort of an armpit suburb. You know, Cleveland itself isn't one of the most diverse cities in the country, and you just get a little bit outside of even Cleveland, and it's a lot of older white folks, lots of polka,
wow,
lots of kielbasa sausage and sauerkraut, and I mean, I'm probably making it out to seem worse than it is. It's just like any other place, but it's definitely an interesting place to be from.
Sure, yeah, different than the Bay Area life that you've grown into now. So Cleveland or Parma, you go to junior high school, you go straight through school there, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. We bounced around through a couple different, cities surrounding the greater Cleveland area. But grew up in North Royalton and Parma and went to school out there, through grade school and high school.
Awesome. And what are you playing at that time? Are you playing guitar?
Well, I started my musical adventures as a cellist in the third grade.
Wow, the classically trained cellist here.
Yeah, did orchestra, all sorts of private lessons and everything. And, it was definitely something that was a huge part of my life as a kid.
You're talking going to lessons 5 times a week?
No, it was like once a week. I started off in like the school programs where they have the in-house teacher there. And then as, time progressed, I actually ended up going outside of that and going to like a private kind of instructors that were outside of just like the normal kind of school system. So
now, did that provide you to get out of your town a little bit? Were you able to run around with some of the schools or any of the programs and kind of see outside of where you were from?
Yeah, actually, it definitely did, give me that opportunity. I actually ended up taking lessons at the school that I ended up going to for college. But I was taking lessons there as a younger, pre-prep sort of, sort of deal. And then eventually I actually ended up going to college there, but not for music at all. So I had already been attending my college kind of in some weird way before I even got out of high school.
Already experienced that environment.
Yeah, totally.
So you're playing the cello all through high school.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that lead you? I mean, are you playing with anybody? Can you join a band at that point? Is there any live music going on?
At that point in my life?
Yeah, in high school?
Not so much. I mean, there were a couple bands in high school that I loved to go see that were kids I went to school with and stuff. But yeah, I played guitar back then, but I was teaching myself, and I definitely wasn't at a point where I was able to get something together. I actually had no idea how you could even, the idea of starting something like that, I had no idea where to start. I think we tried a few times with some friends in basements and stuff, but...
That's the awkward high school years for all of us, right?
Yeah, I'm like, where do they sing into? How does that work?
Yeah, so
I have no idea.
Yeah, you're talking completely blind into it.
Yeah.
So after high school, you head to college, and that's at what college do you go to?
I went to Baldwin Wallace College, which is the aforementioned place that I had been taking cello lessons at as a younger fellow. And I actually didn't go there for music at all. It's a big music school. It has one of the best musical theater programs in the country, at least at the time. So there were a lot of theater kids there, a lot of and just a lot of music majors.
How big of a campus is that? Are you talking thousands of kids, or?
It was half. The school was half commuters and half on-site residents.
So there was people living on site.
Yeah, but I think it was half and half. So I think it was around 5,000 people in enrollment. So total, there were a couple of thousand kids on the campus, but not
there all the time.
Yeah, it wasn't that college experience you see, some of my friends had gone on to bigger schools, and
sure. Well, you weren't going to Nebraska or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. So then, so you kind of end up at Baldwin Wallace, and there you're studying what?
Well, I started off studying computer stuff. I wanted to program. I found out very quickly that my math skills were not exactly up to shape for that, and I didn't really have a algorithmic mind. That's the way I guess I'll put it. There was some assignment where you were supposed to write a couple loops for all you programmers out there, and instead of writing the loop, I actually just individually coded the whole thing, without a loop, and my professor was like, "Dude, you're totally missing the point." So I quickly got out of that, and I ended up in broadcasting because I was a huge college radio guy. I had a show there.
Wow.
I was the music director at the station.
And that was a weekly show?
Yeah, my show was weekly, Wednesday nights.
And that was called?
The Bitter Sky Tonight.
And that was an emo punk show, you're saying?
It was an emo punk show, yeah. We did, that was kind of right at the height of Dashboard and Jimmy Eat World and all that stuff. And I remember I had to go in front of the whole kind of station board and explain to them what emo was, because...
They weren't familiar?
Yeah, they're like, what's your format going to be? And I was like, emo. And they're like... I had to kind of be well, there's this band Thursday, and there's this band Dashboard Confessional.
And there's a lot of people listening to this right now.
Yeah, it's this kind of, it doesn't really encompass one, it can scream and it can be weepy guitar music, and it's all kind of the same thing, and they didn't really get it, but
they gave you the show.
They gave me the show, and it was pretty successful, I think. I had it for a couple years, and...
Wow, and that's a weekly show for a few years.
Yeah.
So this is very familiar to you, talking into a microphone. And
absolutely. I can... 826-2187 is the request line.
Oh, my God.
Call them. 440 area code. Yeah, give 883 a call.
Wonder if they still have the Thursday songs in the playlist.
It's funny because even when I graduated, somebody actually took over that show and kept the name and everything and kept it going.
Oh, really?
There were two people after me that kept it going, so...
So you do a couple years of college radio there at Baldwin Wallace, and then when do you end up graduating from there?
I was straight in, straight out 4 years. Somehow managed to get all my credits in, and I ended up being a business major because I thought broadcasting was sort of... you don't need a broadcasting degree to broadcast. If you have the experience, you can do it, and I figured business was a safer route. So all that meanwhile, I had gotten a job with Sony Music, doing college rep marketing, handing out flyers at shows and putting stickers up in record stores. And
wow, so that job comes to you while you're in college.
Yeah.
Wow, that must have been pretty exciting.
Through working at the radio, I had met some reps who kind of worked for Sony, and they were the ones coming to me play this on the radio, do this, do that. And eventually they kind of offered me that job. So I was the one talking to the college radio stations now, being like, hey, play this new. I think we worked on Midtown and Coheed and Cambria. And
Once they offered you the job, would you say you ended up playing a little bit more Sony music on the radio?
It was a little bit. I was kind of doing both for a minute, and I definitely made sure our stuff was taken care of. But
Well, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Landing a job with Sony while you're still in college. So the Sony job is what ends up generating your move to California. And what year is that in?
So that's when I graduated, 2005. Being this kind of intern / college rep person, if you do a good job in that role, I mean, it's a stipend. It's not, you don't get hourly. You get, I think it was like $100 a week or something. You were expected to go to like X amount of shows and this and that. But the real thing that you were working for was a chance to like get a job with like, the company's headquarters in New York, which is kind of where I was expecting to go, assuming that I had done a good job and they wanted to take me out there. But they actually called me up and they're like, hey, there's an opening in San Francisco. Do you want to go to San Francisco? And I was not really ready for that. But I thought about it.
Took the opportunity with open arms?
Yeah. And little did I know, I guess I didn't realize, but, this ended up being the right place to be with everything going on in technology and where music's kind of gone. Being here a couple of years before all that hit was actually like kind of a blessing in disguise. So.
Well, that's exciting to hear your trip out to California. We're going to get into that a little bit more here in a moment. We're going to take our first break, and then we'll be back with Mr. Kevin Skalba to talk a little bit about him arriving in Oakland, the bands that he started and formed here in Oakland, and also about This Is My Fest, where he's one of the organizers of the 3 or 4 day festival that's been going on. Will it be the 4th year this year?
4th year.
4th year, and preparation is about to start. We'll be right back with more from Kevin.
We used to know better.
All right, so what you just heard was some false positives off their new record Departures. That was Dark Side. We're back with Kevin here. We're going to talk a little bit more about his job at Sony here in the Bay Area. So you've been with Sony since you moved out here.
Yeah, actually, in kind of different various roles, I've somehow managed to stay with the company. I mean, not to say that like sarcastically, but the music industry has been kind of weird over the last 10 years. So
sure, a lot of changes.
I've been one of the lucky ones who have been able to kind of keep up with everything. And I know I mentioned earlier about being lucky to be in San Francisco. So I started off as selling CDs, essentially, going around a tower, going around to...
So to the big record stores, to the tower, to what, Circuit City, Best Buy, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, Tower was kind of different because they were, started and based in Sacramento, so they were a little bit close to home in terms of that. But yeah, like the big box guys like Circuit City and Best Buy and Kmart, Walmart, anywhere that has CDs, like all those stores were done like centrally, like by, like an account team in whatever city that company was based in. But they would send me in to kind of make sure everything's like looking good in there.
So you would physically go to the record stores on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. When I told you I was kind of familiar with this area a little bit, it's because like I used to come out to the music land in the Antioch Mall.
Wow.
to come in and check on their stock and give them promo CDs to play in the store and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and just make sure that all the Sony displays are up and the records are there.
Yeah, exactly.
Really cool. So it starts doing that, and then where do you move into Sony?
Yeah, as kind of the physical thing kind of started becoming not so much of a thing anymore.
What year does that really take notice? That CDs aren't selling?
They started there were 5 of us doing what I just described here in various kind of, I was kind of on the lower end, more marketing side and like more kind of sales heavy guys, but then there were 3 of us, and then there were 2 of us, and then...
So you just kind of see it start to dwindle pretty much as soon as you're out here?
Yeah.
That side changes?
Yeah, and it was happening here, and it was happening in every market that had, multiple people or whatever. It started kind of going down. I would say the entire thing had kind of bottomed out with at least the staffing of those types of, employees around 2007. 2008, so about 3 years, 2 to 3 years after I moved here. So it wasn't even a particularly long time,
Yeah, you kind of watched that side of the music industry take a dump.
Yeah.
So then after CD goes away, you can no longer go storefront to storefront. I mean, even some of those big box stores start closing down.
Yeah.
Circuit City.
City's gone.
I mean, this stuff doesn't
Music
exist
land,
anymore.
Gone. Tower gone.
Sam
Warehouse
Goody.
gone.
I mean, does this stuff exist anymore? So after that all kind of crumbles, where does that land you with the company?
Yeah, so like I said, being lucky, iTunes is based in Cupertino. And, during my kind of later years of going to CD stores, they had kind of asked me to start doing a little bit of work on iTunes because the iTunes account team was in San Francisco, like for Sony. So they already had 2 people kind of working on it, but those were the early days. And
wow, so actually a great opportunity strikes with iTunes coming and the digital music revolution about to take place.
Yeah,
they ask you to become part of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was super lucky. And like, Sony was releasing all the American Idol stuff back then. Yeah, a long time ago. And one of the guys who won, like something happened, like technically, like within that world of getting, products up onto that store, something like happened and it like the single fell off the store and we lost like 10,000 sales or so. Don't quote me on that number. It's not
But
accurate.
It took a dive.
It took a dive because it had fallen off and everybody was asking questions like, how did we not notice this? Why do we have people driving to record stores looking for 2 CDs in a Kmart when they could be looking at like the iTunes store and making sure this, important single is not going to fall off for any reason. So that's kind of how I started off there.
In a global market, literally, where anybody can access this from their home now.
Yeah, their home, their pocket, their phone. So
yeah, and years later, from our cell phone, we can buy anything we want. So you end up getting the iTunes account pretty much and become one of the main representatives from Sony dealing with that?
Yeah, there's 4 of us on the team. 3 of us on the team here in San Francisco. And I'm on a team of 3 people who do that. So yeah, I've been kind of managing that kind of stuff for, probably since around 2009, 2010, where I've like kind of full on started that job.
And you were talking earlier, or to me before we started, you've helped out with recent releases of Kings of Leon, Adele, One Direction, Tribe Called Quest. I mean, just huge releases.
It's like the magnitude of some of these is like insane. And, we're doing forecasting and we're doing streaming numbers, and there's a lot that goes into it. And it's really fun to be a part of something so different than, what I think we're going to talk about coming up here in a little bit. Yeah,
sitting in the local scene and trying to get 20 people to come to your show.
Right.
Just imagining what the Adele budget is for her advertising is just too much for me to even fathom, probably. Yeah, I mean, that was the best-selling record of last year, from what I remember. It was
one of the best-selling records, I think.
Was it of all time?
I wouldn't say all time yet, but I think in a year, like the year that since it came out, like in 1 year, I think it had broken like 1 year sales records. Yeah,
I had heard that as that came out.
That was insane.
Well, that must be really exciting to be part of that team and to watch all that happen.
Yeah.
So you're doing that all through the Bay Area. On one side, this huge scale music projects, and then on the other side, we're doing what we both do, and what we love, and that's playing in, the small bands out here. And so I think about 2008, 2009 is when I meet you. You're playing with the band Weekender.
Yep.
And you guys were playing, I think we ran into each other playing a show at the Stork Club in Oakland.
Yes, we did.
And that's kind of where I became friends with you and the guys of that band. And that was a pretty exciting time, for all of us, just kind of struggling in Oakland to try and get anybody to come out.
Yeah, definitely. And that was with Red City Radio.
Yeah,
and I had blind emailed you
to get on that show.
You need another band? Like, we're this awesome band. Like, you should listen to us. And you wrote back and you're like, we do need another band. It sounds great. Yeah,
sometimes that's all it takes is to ask, right? I mean, how many shows have I landed on just, by chance going, hey, do you need somebody? They're like, yeah, we weren't thinking so, but sure. So, yeah, we play that together. So when Weekender kind of gets started around that time?
Yeah, I think we had been kind of kicking around for a little bit before then. We decided we were sometime in like 2009, I think we got going.
Okay.
Dan had moved here from Portland, and I didn't know him yet, but we had become friends, and I wanted to start a band, and he was a drummer, and so I kind of like jumped on that opportunity, and him and I started writing stuff as just a two-piece, and then my roommate Alex was playing bass, and then the bass kind of got passed around for a while.
A couple different guys.
Yeah. And then, Ryan ended up playing, was our like long time, bass
kind
player.
The solidified lineup of Weekender.
Yeah, once Ryan got in, that's when it was like full on, like we were ready to like really record and like maybe try to do a little touring and stuff.
And you guys ended up coming out with, I know, one release that came out on Bandcamp and also a couple of different 7-inches.
Yeah, Weekender had one split with Build Them to Break from San Francisco.
Yeah, great band. Just came out with a new album.
Yeah, definitely. Good guys, good friends. That was the only split we did. Oh, no, we did another split with Drunk Dial.
The Great Drunk Dial.
The Great Drunk Dial. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Those guys, we shared practice space, all great guys. So similarly, we had similar music, but they were a little bit rougher, a little more punk than us, and we were a little more poppy. So it was kind of a good mixture.
So through Weekender, you start booking shows with other bands, helping out other bands, that are coming through touring. And that kind of lands you starting This Is My Fest?
Yeah.
Where does that idea even arise from?
Well, This Is My Fest started because one of the other organizers, Trick,
yep,
who some of you probably know.
Oh, yeah. Many of our listeners will know Trick.
Yeah. Trick used to throw a show on his birthday every year at my house in Oakland, actually.
And that was in September.
And it was always in September. I think his birthday is actually the 14th. I shouldn't have said that because if I'm wrong,
you got to be wrong now.
So he was doing like little backyard shows, and one year it was like a bunch of folk bands. It was really fun, and 1 year I think Weekender had played, and Sneaking Out played, and Drunk Dial played. And it was a more punk show. So that had been going on for a while, and at that time, Trick was actually living at the Pink String, which was this super grungy, like, West Oakland punk house, and they started throwing shows there, too.
Shows there, yeah.
So through that, he had started kind of, like, getting to know, he doesn't play an instrument or anything, but he started to get to know a lot of different people.
Meeting a lot of the bands that were coming through and that were part of the scene out here.
Yeah, I know, and it was grind stuff, it was punk, it was metal, it was like all sorts of different people coming through there. So, the idea arose kind of like, maybe we can make this something bigger, and that was, I think, the year we had all gone to Awesome Fest and we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, we should try to do something like that.
Out of San Diego, yes.
Yeah. So, that was where the kind of idea came from was.
So This Is My Fest kind of comes to you guys, throwing the birthday shows and dreaming up something bigger in Oakland. So what is the first year we land This Is My Fest? That's 2000.
It would have been 14.
2014. Okay,
Yep.
So that lands us 2014. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about This Is My Fest, as well as False Positives, Kevin's new band that you just heard, and a little bit about what they're going to be up to and what they have been up to. So we'll be right back with more with Kevin.
In a way until I realize that doing nothing is the same as making a mistake. Take it as it comes and live with the fact that in the end, that's the choice I made. Walking and riding the same fucking street. I don't want to stay, but I don't want to live. I still got the sparkle in most of 6 strings. I'll take them with me when I learn to walk.
All right, so what you just heard there was Never Cry Shitwolf by False Positives. That's also off the new record Departures. We're back here talking with Kevin Skalba. We're going to continue talking about This Is My Fest. You've got This Is My Fest 4 coming up. Preparations already starting?
It's starting pretty much right now, actually. Yeah, we had a whole 2 months off, and it's time to get back on it.
Wow, so you for a festival in September, you're starting first month of the year, January.
Yeah, I mean, we have actually the last, maybe not the first year, but the last, 2 and 3 we started in January and didn't really get moving till March and April, and we found that was a little bit too late, so we're trying to really hit it hard now.
Yeah, and really take care of it. So It's you, Trick, who we talked about earlier, and also Tyler is one of the big minds behind the festival. Who else is going to be involved this year? Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, this, the three of us were kind of definitely the three-headed monster that started this thing. But, I think we decided that we're going to try to kind of open it up a little bit. There's a lot of people who have been helping us a ton already and maybe not really, not our,
the venues,
they're not like the three of us or whatever. But when we started year 2 and we had the show at, Gilman, we met Ilya, and since then he's done a lot for us. So we're going to kind of bring Ilya on to help us do some booking.
Yeah, one of the great bookers out here that's been helping out a ton of bands and always helping out the touring bands.
Yeah, definitely. He knows a lot of people. He just like expands the reach, and I think it'll definitely help us out. Shane, who a lot of you guys probably know from reunions, he's also on Def Cow with False Positives, and was a big guy in the San Diego world. He's always helped us out with design. So
Cool.
we're bringing kind of Shane on as like a. It was kind of like I would just go to Shane and be like, "Can you do this?" But now we're just gonna kind of have him in the loop.
And be kind of a
as an
member of the
independent-
board. Huh?
Yeah, so he can kind of see that. And, Dan, who is in False Positive with us, has been helping since year 1, too. We kind of made him, we have a seat called the Community Outreach Director.
And that's where he's sitting now, huh?
That's where he's sitting. He's kind of helped us last year with getting, we had discounts at like Rudy's and a couple of the local bars around town, like Commonwealth and stuff.
Yeah, and some of the restaurants locally.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Dan also has done all the original drawings, so he's going to kind of work with Shane still and kind of help out with
Yeah, I
the
feel
outreach and.
His artwork has really became a part of This Is My Fest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've loved everything he's done with it. So 3 years down, you're coming up on year number 4. What are the challenges? I mean, we all know what's going on in Oakland right now with a lot of the clubs feeling pressure, a lot of the DIY spots under heat. I mean, what do you expect to see this year? I mean, is this festival going to grow? Are you guys going to try and keep it in some of the DIY spots like I know in previous years you had it at Abco?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, are those options again this year?
I think for us, our biggest, challenge is to grow, but also kind of keep everything, within what we're all comfortable with and what we think the community is comfortable with. So, and I guess to kind of elaborate on that is, we don't want it to be, we don't want to come off like, punk rock bowling or, Riot Fest or something like that, where it seems very commercial. We want to keep it like kind of the way it is now, but also like help it grow, like very community oriented, very much like, a family reunion, like that kind of thing. So
yeah, and at the normal spots where you would catch these bands in Oakland. Not always, not in different venues, but the same places you would catch these guys on a normal Saturday or Sunday night.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and, trying to grow, but keeping all of that in mind that, like, that's kind of the forefront. I mean, clearly we're nowhere near Riot Fest or Gainesville Fest or any of that stuff, but, like...
Sure, but there has been a lot of growth in the first few years.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I mean, with, the warehouse spots, I know that's something that even we struggled to find really, for something on the scale that we're doing, we were kind of struggling to find, places that like really worked that were like centrally located for that. So,
with public transit in mind and
like
and
touring bands,
people that are coming out of town.
Yeah, people coming from, East Bay, even from the city, like, as close as we could keep it to like kind of a central heartbeat, within Oakland is kind of what we're trying to do. So, yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to be looking for, spots to do that kind of stuff again this year. But I think we had a lot of success with what we did in year 3 with Uptown. We tried out the Metro, and I think there was, I think that was kind of cool. It's definitely a big spot for what we're doing and where we're at this exact moment. But it's definitely...
It's nice to have it available.
Yeah, nice to have it available. The band seemed to like the setup that was there, whereas, we were kind of looking at a big empty room, but really it wasn't an empty room. It was just a room that Mill and Colin couldn't fill, so we couldn't fill it either. Yeah.
Totally understandable.
So,
And then also we had events at the Nightlight, of course, which great venue in Oakland.
Yeah, definitely. And this year we worked with the Uptown, thanks to Julio and Switchblade Riot, who kind of bridge that gap for us, and they're great. Really, really think on the same level as we do as a festival, so I think we'll definitely try to work with them again.
Yeah, with the Uptown reopened in Oakland, I mean, that's exciting to have that venue there, and I mean, important to have that venue there.
Absolutely,
with so many always going away, that's really been a, regardless of it closing for that time, just a really staple to Oakland.
Yeah, definitely. So, venues is one thing. Eli's reopened, and we had done our first year. We did our first year there when it was I don't want to say the old Eli's, but the original Eli's, I guess.
Yeah, it's had some big renovations as of late.
So, yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to be somebody we're going to hopefully talk to. And, False Positives just did our tour kickoff there a couple weeks ago. And, it worked out great. I think it's a great place, to host something like that. So it's definitely an exciting time to be doing this. And, while things are changing, it's definitely going in the right direction. And,
Yeah, I feel the whole scene in Oakland, a lot of the bands came together through This Is My Fest and really have started to work together for the greater good and for the bigger community and to allow all of us to have a little bit more fun and exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of exactly what we're kind of hoping for. And it's great to hear that you see that, that way in your eyes. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone has. Well, we're all looking forward to This Is My Fest coming up September of this year in Oakland, of course. And we want to talk a little bit more about your new band, False Positives. So you guys have a new record out, Departures, just came out.
Yep.
And we've heard that. We've been playing a couple songs tonight on that. That is you and Dan from Weekender.
Yep, Dan was the drummer in Weekender too.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris Carrier, who was previously in Oog Nasty, and of course Drunk Dial, which is the same band, but they changed their name.
Yeah. So you guys came together to record this album, and where was this recorded at?
We record at Earthtone with Pat Hills up in Sacramento. Some of you guys probably know Pat from Bastards of Young.
Sure, great band. Also done so much for everybody recording. I mean, everybody I talk to is going to him now, and really a great studio. So check out Pat Hills.
Yeah, definitely.
What was your experience there?
Our experience was pretty cool. We came in. We had jumped on a tour that I think we'll probably get to the tour in a couple minutes here, but our big goal was to have what we were calling our demo done by December, so that we could go on this tour and not be worthless and not have any music to give people.
At least have something to show.
Yeah, exactly. So, after Tim Fest had ended, which was, mid-September, we're kind of like, oh crap, we really need to do this. So, we kind of just started reaching out our arms and finding, different studios and rates and like what we could do. And like for a minute we were doing it in our practice room with Tom from Drunk Dial, and we kind of bounced around a little bit, but we ended up with, doing it with Pat up in Sacramento, and the experience was great. I mean,
when did you end up in Earthtone? Was that in October or?
Yeah, it was a Tuesday in October, and he was like, "Hey man, I really want to help you out. Like, he's busy, they're booked," and he's like, "But if there was a way you could come up on like a Tuesday, and it's 5 songs, you guys are a punk band, they're probably not much longer than 2 minutes," and he totally worked with us, and
So you did the whole album in one day?
We did everything in one day, yeah. We drove up the night before and crashed on the floor at the studio, woke up and just went at it.
And that's his new studio right there next to the Nut Factory, if I recall.
Is there a Nut Factory?
I think so. I swore I seen
he didn't mention that.
Diamond Nut Factory or something next to it. Well, I think the album came out great, and then, it's been released to the public now. I hope everyone has a chance to check it out. And that lands you on your guys' first tour. You rolled with the Hammer Bombs.
Yeah, Hammer Bombs had set up. They were kind of getting bugged, I guess, from friends of theirs, like to come down to SoCal because a bunch of the members of Hammer Bombs are also in this band Heartless Folk, and Heartless Folk has made it down there a bunch, but Hammer Bombs had never toured before, and so they're like, okay, yeah, we should do a Hammer Bombs tour. Let's go. And I started seeing like the events pop up in like my news feed because like of Marty and just like the guys in San Diego, and I was like, oh man, Hammer Bombs are going down there. I was like, that sounds like fun. So I just kind of hit up, Ilya and Jen from Hammer Bombs and just said, hey, I see you guys are doing a 3-day, little weekend tour. Like, do you want somebody to go with you?
Yeah, hook us up.
Yeah, and Jen and Ilya are both like, yeah, that would be cool. Like, every single show that we've booked is the same person you would book a show through. Like, it's all the same family. Like, you should totally jump on this. So
you end up doing, what are the venues and the cities you do down south?
So we did, the Friday night was Los Angeles at the Redwood Bar, and Harry set that one up. It was a great show. We played with Danger Friends, who were really cool, and a band called In Decline, who was from, I think, up more in kind of like the Central Valley area. And they were really cool too. They were more of like a hardcore band, but they like blew everybody away. It was really cool.
Yeah, really good band.
And then we did Doll Hut Saturday, which is in Anaheim. I'd never been there before, and that was a first for me. It was
And that was set up by Marty.
Yeah, Marty set that one up for us. It was
a
really
great
cool.
Party Marty. Everyone knows him.
Good old Party Marty. It was funny. There was a wedding going on that day. I think it was a couple of, I'm not going to say names because I don't remember exactly, but it was a couple of people from the music scene in that Riverside area had gotten
getting married that day.
Yeah. So immediately, like, our draw had just completely kind of got decimated because a lot of the folks who would be going to a show on a Saturday night were all at this wedding, you know,
They're all
getting
dressed
hammered,
up,
having a good
boozing.
time.
Yeah.
So, like, Marty, like, races in, like, from the wedding, left early just to be there for the show and, you know, did a great job, and we, like, super appreciate that. And, you know, there were a good handful of people who made it from the wedding, too. So that was really cool to see that some folks made it out there.
Great scene out there, all those guys. Like you mentioned, Harry and Marty both. Those are the guys that hit up when booking in Southern California.
Definitely, yeah. And the bands we played with in Anaheim was Blueums and Baron Bandini. So thanks to them again. That was really cool. And then third day was down in San Diego.
Awesome. And what venue was that in San Diego?
The Tower Bar.
The infamous Tower Bar.
The infamous Tower Bar. Yeah, that was a really good show. You know, like, getting into San Diego.
And that was something Ziggy had put on, or?
You know, it wasn't Ziggy. It was Pat Earhart, who does, I guess, is kind of helping Ziggy out now.
Okay.
And doing some stuff down there. He's in a band called Ash Williams, who played Tim Festu.
Great band. Yeah, I caught them. I think they played one of the Stork shows there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're actually old friends with those guys, too. So it was really cool to have them on the show with us. And yeah, just seeing a ton of old friends at that show, and hugs and high fives and shots. And it was Rob from Hammerbomb's birthday that day, so we had a great time doing some shots and having a good time, and just.
So it sounds like quite a great little run to kick off the career of False Positives here at the end of the year.
Definitely, yeah. It was really cool, and we appreciated that experience a lot. And yes. Hammerbombs are some really cool individuals. We're happy to be with them.
Yeah, great band from out here in Oakland. Also check them out. So False Positives has a show upcoming at the Uptown. That's going to be a Ghost Ship benefit. Hope you guys can make it out to that. What else is coming up for the False Positives? What do you see in the upcoming year?
Well, we're definitely in the mood to write a bunch. We definitely kind of jumped in pretty hard with recording and getting this tour out of the way and getting the EP out. But our kind of focus now is to, the EP is 5 songs, so we have a couple more that we're written and we're playing them now. But I think our kind of goal is to write another kind of chunk of songs, if you will.
Yeah, we're all pushing to hear the full length come out next year.
Yeah, and we'd like to do a split. If anybody's listening and wants to do a split with us, there's a band called Triple Deke from Fargo that we've been talking to. It's kind of all of their like song titles and like their EP title and everything. They're all like named after like hockey references, and I'm like a huge hockey fan. So immediately I was just like,
you've got a little bit of a bias to talk with them, huh?
Yeah, I was like, let's do the split, and can I also join your band?
Yeah, I'll move.
And they're like, no, I got to keep you on the bench, but totally, if you want to do some background vocals. So I don't know.
Right on.
Yeah, those are some of the guys from Crab Legs, so they're a pretty cool band. So
yeah, Crab Legs, check those guys out.
So yeah, maybe do a split. Maybe get the EP put out on vinyl if things keep going well. Right now it's only on a tape, but the recording's pretty good. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the record came out great. Everyone's going to be looking forward to see what comes with the False Positive next year. And, of course, looking forward to This Is My Fest. Kevin, we want to thank you for coming in today. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Is there any final words you'd like to put out there for everyone?
Well, it's the end of the year, so I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody. I know.
Hey, Happy New Year.
I've been hearing a lot about, how this year might have been a bummer for a lot of different reasons, and they're all very valid reasons. But, let's kick the shit out of 2017.
Yeah, I think this has been a good year for a lot of reasons too. So let's always keep that in mind, and all have a good 2017. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Ryan.
I want to thank Kevin again for coming into the 80 West studios. What he does for the Bay Area music scene is truly incredible, and often is a thankless job. So thank you, Kevin. I want to leave all of my listeners here with an in-studio session. This is Kevin playing a False Positive song, and I'll let him introduce it.
This one is called Lows and Highs.
My car's so dirty I can't see 20 feet in front of me. And for this to thank I have the trees who gave a name to our city, to our city. As I walk the same old road, filled with garbage and potholes, I look at all the other homes. How did this one become my own? 10 years in the blink of an eye, never needed much to get by. Somewhere between the lows and the highs. 10 years in the blink of an eye, never needed much to get by. Somewhere between the lows and the highs, the highs. Another Mosswood Saturday, bounce houses and loud DJs. They're keeping their room dreams well alive, while we drink on the bleachers, meet you at 5. 10 years in the blink of an eye, never needed much to get by. Somewhere between the lows and the highs. 10 years in the blink of an eye, never needed much to get by. Somewhere between the lows and the highs and the highs. The blink of an eye, never needed much to get by. Somewhere